Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. What was the fire me I don't even care moment you had at work, part 5. I work in a small department where my job is fairly secure because I am, by far, the most knowledgeable about the company's systems. Supervisors often overreact to criticism and wind up expecting us to put in absurdly long hours for little return on investment. Anyway, I was feeling especially brave that day, so I said, no, I'm not gonna do that when my department head came in and said they wanted me to work on some crazy project for no apparent reason. It is a huge waste of time and lacks logic. My boss acknowledges that I'm correct, but occasionally he chooses to argue with me just for fun, asking, "What, you refuse to do your job?" I turn to him and say, no, because that kinda peed me off. It's my job to solve problems. It's not my job to placate people who can't take it when someone else picks on them for every stupid knee-jerk reaction. I'll tell them it's a huge waste of my time and that they would probably prefer that I use my time on something truly worthwhile if they want to come talk to me about it. To be honest, are they gonna fire me? I wish you luck on that. My supervisor's told me on several occasions that he will leave the department if I do, as he cannot manage it without me. Of course, he understands how important I am to the department and the business as a whole. He eventually agrees with me as a result, and I don't hear from him about it again. I'm a rule-following people-pleaser, so I'm sure I would have completed the project if they had really pushed me, but I'm relieved I didn't have to. A little assertiveness goes a long way. When I worked in IT support at a previous job, we were required to call a feedback line at random and leave voicemails with feedback about the quality of the service, among other things. It may not sound all that horrible at first, but when you consider that people call you to fix their computers and/or don't care, plus the fact that our company was all about, look at all this good feedback, you can see how ridiculous it was to put through a call from someone who had the worst day ever. I declined to do it because it seemed a little salesy. My numbers were high when it came to fixing things, and I did my work with a smile. I voiced my concerns to the bosses about the aforementioned, but they told me up front that if I didn't comply, I'd be fired. A, and I would be the only one refusing. B, I thought, F this, I know what's right and wrong here. I'm not doing it, after a few weeks of berating myself. F them, because if I get fired, they'll lose someone on the floor who puts in a lot of real work. After a few months, I discovered that A, I wasn't the only one who wasn't following their instructions, and B, no one had been fired as a result. Despite the fact that the figures are somewhat inaccurate, they merely wanted to demonstrate to the customer how awesome we are. Things finally reached a breaking point when I went for a promotion interview. My manager stated to me, your fixing figures are good, but this feedback thing is going to be held against you and you won't be getting this job if you apply for it. As I believe she's mistaken once more, I told her that I'd wait and observe. Thank heaven someone from outside the office conducted the interview and I accepted the offer of employment. I moved away from that aspect of the job and received a pay increase, but I still had to work in the same office. I had never felt better than I did after receiving a congrats from my boss. Without going into too much technical detail, we used to have a number of problems with end-user security settings that would impede our progress, and consequently our revenue stream, in our previous job, software development/rollout support. I took some time to investigate how we could make it possible for our product to flow through these systems without any problems, but in doing so, a zealous coworker thought I was attempting to get around our own internal security. He warned management and IT in silence. After a few days, I had drafted a plan, a document, and an evaluation of the adjustments we could make to our product. As soon as I arrived at work, I was led into a meeting room and charged with violating the company's IT policy as well as possibly gross misconduct. I was told to go home for the day and to come back for a disciplinary hearing the next day. Taking a printed copy of my change plan with me, I introduced myself and said I had come up with a way to make our product better so that rollout staff could use it more easily and we could make more money. But I did state that I'd take the document with me if I were to leave the company. I clarified that this was the subject of my research and not a means of getting around internal security. I was reinstated and given a pay increase soon after. I used to work at a dealership as a lot attendant, cleaning cars, moving cars around, doing dealer trades, etc. We were usually pretty short-staffed. We'd ideally have 4 lot attendants on each day, with maybe 3 on Sunday and Monday, but we were down to 3 on most days and 2 for Sunday and Monday. Well, one guy was gone on a dealer trade all the way across the state, so it was just me and my friend alone on a Friday, one of the busiest days in the car business. I'm 9 to 5, my friend is 12 to 8, but he's new and I know he can't handle the rush on his own yet, so I offer willingly to stay until he's got the line of cars to clean down, at least 2 cars. Any more would be too tough for him. Well, it was so effing busy all day that I basically had to miss lunch to keep up with the rush. Typically, I'd take my lunch at 1 p.m. with a 9 to 5. Well, I couldn't since it was just 2 of us consistently having a line of 3 or more cars to clean the entire day. So at like 4 p.m., I finally get us down to 2 cars and tell my friend he's on his own for the next half an hour. So I'm upstairs eating my McDonald's and one of the biggest effing salespeople in the store, Clint, walks upstairs and says to me, "Your effing friend is slow as S. Get off your A and go help him." I responded with, "Dude, I don't effing give an S. If you want your car cleaned faster, you go effing help him." He then says, "If you're not gonna get down there and help him, I'm gonna go tell Yuri," mafia Russian type mother effer who's also the general sales manager. I responded with, "Just Yuri? Why effing stop there? Go tell the effing owners for all I care. I've been here all day and haven't gotten a chance to take my legally mandated lunch break. I'm willingly gonna stay late, but Yuri isn't gonna pull me off my break unless you want to go to court for it." He walked away silently, effing furious, but he knew he couldn't do S at that point. Unrelated to this particular event, but I did eventually leave the job about 6 months later, and just about every lot attendant left after me, and the car dealership was closed. What is your narrative about the HOA or Neighbors from H, Part 5? When I was in college, my best friend and I rented a walkout basement suite in a house that had a young family living upstairs with a couple of children who were usually between the ages of 3 and 5. When we first moved in, we went to introduce ourselves and address any concerns that we had right away, just like you do. The wife responded by barely peeking out the door, saying no more than 3 words to us and then closing the door on us in the middle of our sentence. So let's fast forward a couple of weeks. In the beginning, we started inviting a few people over to play board games and drink a few beers, establishing the ground rules that everyone must leave the building by 10:30 a.m. While they're attempting to put their children to bed, we hear a knock on the connecting door, and it's the mother who's complaining that we're too loud. It's fair. Make sure that everyone's quiet and then go to a cafe. The following morning, at precisely 5 o'clock, there was a loud bang that shook the house and sounded like a GD dwarf blacksmith slamming sledgehammers on the floor that were located directly above my room. Did I decide to take a break because of what happened last night? Maybe some IKEA furniture in the wee hours of the morning? It could be a one-time occurrence. To get to school, I need you to get on my bike. The following morning at 5 o'clock, he was once again dropping bowling balls. However, this time he stopped and came directly around to both of our bedroom windows, where he just stared through them for what seemed like an hour. I needed to get to class, then I needed to get on my bike and leave. Earlier that day, I went and knocked on the door, and when my wife answered, she refused to let me speak with her husband, and then she slammed the door shut once more. I called the landlord and let him know what's going on, which is extremely frustrating. He promises that he'll talk to them. Alright, I hope that works. Once again, at 5 o'clock in the morning, bam, bam! Thinking, what the H is this? The family from the Flintstones on the second floor? As soon as he walked up to our window and stared through it, his smug expression appeared once more. It's important to keep in mind that I've never actually met or spoken to this guy. I stand up and make an attempt to go outside and have a conversation with him, but he rushes back upstairs to the house. This is getting better now. This continued for about a week, and each time I attempted to approach them, they fled and locked their doors. I'm unable to get in touch with them. Finally, there was a night when I decided to just let it go and went ahead and had some friends over for a pre-drink on a Friday. We were a little rowdy because at that point, who really cares? I left for the pub at approximately 9:30 p.m. and I stayed out for a considerable amount of time. My bike was nowhere to be found when I went to get it the following morning to take it to a soccer game. From a storage room that was locked, both units shared access. Storage has not been unlocked yet. I was under the impression that I'd lost it while I was intoxicated. Could take place. No way. After some time had passed, I discovered that earlier that morning, he had taken my downhill mountain bike, which was worth $2,000, and sold it at a pawn shop. Submit a report to the police. The dude was arrested, but bailed out. I got compensation and my bike back. A few weeks after that, the owner also evicted them from the property. October 2016 found my condo beginning to fall apart. We had to leave, formerly homeless, for a year and had a Red Cross card and everything. The HOA did nothing at all. Nobody would contact us at all, admit anything, or explain anything. We waited patiently for a year. We moved back in when we were at last informed the building was structurally sound once more, only to be informed a week ago that we had to evacuate and gather all we owned for a month while repairs were being done, sometimes this spring. The worst of all was having to pay our HOA fees all through the process. The only way owners were offered non-payment was if we signed a form pledging not to sue anyone. Never again with a condo. Never again with an HOA. Never again with River Towers in Alexandria, Virginia. This is to establish the background. I recently turned 30 years old. I'm able to save and invest my money, do not waste it, and have a good job. My childhood was filled with destitution, and I was never given anything in life. After the software company I'd been working for went public in my late 20s, I cashed out and moved back to Florida to be with my family. When I found myself with nothing to do, I decided to engage in real estate investment with a close friend of mine. A little over a year ago, I made a purchase of 2 condominiums from the president of a homeowners association. According to this man, who is in his late 60s, he believes that he is the second coming of Jesus. At the very beginning, he made remarks about being young and purchasing houses, and he questioned why my parents were not co-signing the loan. To have a trust fund must be a nice thing to have. Existing tenants were employed at both properties. There's still one out of the 2 of us. In order to maximize the amount of money I make from renting out each property, my business model has been to completely remodel each property between tenants. It was a living H to work on construction. Literally everything was a problem. At 5:05 p.m., the contractors are leaving and the dumpster smelled, having the accusation that one did not pull permits. You name it. The president of the HOA attempted to meddle his way into the group. I applied for 6 different rentals, and all of them were rejected. In spite of the fact that I was never given a reason, the board was more than happy to cash my application fees. I enlisted the advice of the attorney for my company. It took us 6 months and a lot of time that we didn't use in the courtroom, but we were finally able to get the books. A family friend of mine went through them and discovered that there were some inconsistencies. The idiot and his 2 crony board members were stealing from the bank account, and they were responsible for the loss of hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars. I'll save the lengthy story for another time. On behalf of his own business, he was composing fictitious invoices. It was possible for my magician attorney to obtain text logs of them discussing the possibility of blocking my applications. Primarily, they wanted me to sell the property so that they could purchase it. Regarding the justice boner, we were successful in obtaining a significant judgment against him personally. He was subrogated, according to the HOA's E&O insurance. And in addition to that, he recently listed his home for sale, the residence in which he has resided for the past 3 decades. In an effort to rub salt in the wound, I did submit an offer for 65% of what is being asked for, even though I highly doubt that I'll receive a response. What's the most enjoyable aspect? A few months ago, we made an offer to settle for a fraction of what it was, and we were even willing to include a non-disclosure agreement. At each and every turn, the idiot instructed us to pound sand. Okay, Mr. President of the HOA, I'm gonna win. You came out on the losing end for the stupid trust fund baby. If you want to watch the part 4, click the link here. Very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many thanks for your support.